All right, good afternoon. Welcome back here to Trader Mini. Great to have you aboard. I'm jumping on here just a little bit early. This video will be posted by the normal 2:30 Eastern time frame there, and you'll be able to access it there as well. If you're on live, welcome. But hope you're doing well. Market has about 2 hours left. I don't foresee a lot of things changing going into that time period. If something does dramatically, I'll jump back on video, but I'm jumping on early just because I don't see a lot that's going to change in a big way. So let's get to it. New challenge trigger here today. Walmart is triggering bullish. Now this is a stock that triggered bearish right back here. Is getting whipsawed a little bit and triggering bullish. And we see this happen from time to time, and we are seeing that happen with Walmart. But just like I really wasn't able to trade the bearish signal, I'm not able to trade the bullish signal. The options just don't make sense to do with the earnings priced into them, so I'm not going to do the trade. We have about $1,000 in cash that we could put into play, but I'm not going to do that here. So that is the trigger that's out there today. We have two positions on the board: J.P. Morgan and Procter and Gamble, both up a little bit here today. Let's get the pricing here on them. J.P. Morgan is 330, Procter and Gamble 265. So let's come in here, 330 and 265. So yeah, one went up 20 cents, one went down 20 cents from this morning. So we're still just around that, just south of that 4,000 mark here for the challenge. No need to adjust anything. We're not near our targets. We're not near our stops. So we'll continue to run with those two positions here. Into tomorrow. The time stops will come into play on Friday, at least the red time stops, and next Tuesday the green time stops will come into play. So that's that's kind of how those are shaping up here. Now, as far as crossovers go, we do have quite a few crossovers. These are the upside crossovers. We have Apple, Boeing, Bank of America, Dollar General. How you'll notice some of these were on the list yesterday, and then as they sold off into the close, they found their way off of the list. You take a look at some of these, like an Under Armour. Here, this stock was on the downside crossover list this morning. It's now on the upside crossover list as it just keeps chunking back and forth. But nothing else triggering but Walmart, some things like Walgreens, Vale coming off of new lows. I thought Micron had a shot to trigger, but it didn't. Dollar General didn't trigger on its crossover yesterday, not triggering here today. Bank of America, which I like very much. It is a trade. I like the setup very much. A little bit overbought in the short run, but has had that nice little snapback. It lagged on the down tick. It's leading on the uptick here of late. And then Boeing, which we've talked about a bunch. The 320, and I've talked about I'm a buyer here at 320 and have been. I have the position that I'm willing to get into. So it's not like I'm looking to add until it really decides it wants to go. And by that, I mean, start having some sort of major uptrend. But very nice price action, and one I expect to see some follow through here to the upside on as well. Interesting action in gold. No real selling in gold here today. Nice little support level for the GDX so far. So we'll be very interested to see how that shapes up here. And then Apple does have an upside 3-7 crossover on it, but consolidation risk on it very high. So no new signal there for it. Now on the downside crossovers, we do have two on the list. Ford and Chipotle, they were both on the list here this morning. Chipotle off of their earnings, pretty solid earnings. Pretty solid earnings for Chipotle. Not the best of reactions for Chipotle here. personally, I'd love to see it get trimmed. We saw it get trimmed here in October on earnings, right? And they sold it. They sold it on down, and boom, before the next earnings, back to a new high. I do expect similar action to take place with it. And then Ford, where that's a big move. So much for a couple-day rally. Just gets trimmed really hard. I have not had a chance to go through Ford's numbers, just yet. They're the entirety of the earnings report, but I will be doing that as Ford is on the challenge watch list. But if you look at Ford, big miss on earnings, right? Big miss on earnings, and then on the revenue side, a miss as well. So, you have that double miss. You have worries about the dividend. You're not exactly talking about growth going forward. Maybe in the second half of this year, and that could be a big catalyst for Ford. It's in an ugly spot. And, we talked about Ford over the last several years, and as it's gotten down into this $8 range, back here in 2018 a couple times, that, hey, it's a very nice dividend play at those levels. But we talked about the last dip on Ford, and I just talked about it. I'm not comfortable with it anymore as a dividend play because of some of the other things going on with it. So it still has a very strong dividend, going for it. It's almost almost 7%. Here, so it's a pretty massive dividend. But the way some things are shaping up, some of the arguments for a dividend cut, could be coming in to play. If you want a full breakdown on that, just search Ford dividend in the video library. It'll come up there for you. All right. So those are the crossovers. As far as the market metrics here today, we still have a neutral reading on the market vibe, and it's a 0 right now. Bullish percent index is moving on up here today with the bounce in the market. We are seeing, small caps. They're not lagging this rally, right? So they are picking up. They are kind of leading the way. Depending on how you look at them, right? Things like China, not a great bounce, but you don't expect it to be a massive, full recovery with China right away. Same with the emerging market ETF here. And this is where we've seen a little bit of the selling come into play, but tech hitting new highs here. So, bullish action overall. And, but not enough to switch the market vibe into a bull signal. And what does that suggest to me? Well, that suggests to me that we're probably looking at some sort of topping process coming into play. And we talked about it back here. Not all sell-offs are just this singular drop and it's done and then, go back. A lot of times there's a process involved. And over the last 2 weeks, we've taken a look at several topping processes. They tend to be 2 to 3 weeks long. Sometimes they do go to a new short-term high. And I suspect that that's what we are seeing being built in right here. Whether or not it has a precipitous drop after the topping process or a nice little breakout, I think it's going to be dependent on the economic data that we see. And that is, so far has come in fairly bullish, but there's still more data to come before I think the market's ready to say, well, you know what, let's take this to, super new highs, or let's, really kind of break it on down. All right. So holding on to JP Morgan, holding on to Procter & Gamble into the close here. And, we'll run with those, and we will talk to you tomorrow. Take care.